Kevin Kugler called the action last night for Westwood 1 on West Virginia Gonzaga. We'll get into that game in just a second, how that all went down in the final moments. Me, a WVU grad, not thrilled.
Mike, the 2 o'clock hour here brought to you by the Bellevue Tavern on Route 9 South and beautiful Cape May Courthouse. On Friday, start your weekend off with great times and great people at the Bellevue Tavern. That's your neighborhood tavern at the shore. Go to BellevueTavern.com.
All right, Kevin Kugler had the call last night on Westwood 1. You heard it right here on 97.3 ESPN, along with Jim Jackson. And Kevin, we welcome you to the show. And, man, got a great game to start the Sweet 16 last night.
Well, and it's obvious West Virginia got completely hosed in this game, and there's just no other way around it. And I think we should spend an inordinate amount of time talking. It's great to be on with you guys. I'm playing up, obviously, to you, Mike, but yeah, it was a very compelling ending to what was a game that, for most of the game, honestly looked like a West Virginia game because it was a style that they were certainly dictating in that game. And I think what surprised a lot of people was Gonzaga can play a little defense as well, and they're just a really well-rounded and good basketball team. And for people who haven't seen a lot of them because they play in the West Coast Conference, they really are a legit number 1 seed.
Yeah, we saw that last night because, you know, when the game got tough, they toughened up late in that game. When West Virginia tried to play their style, it kind of threw them off a bit, but they didn't fold. But late in that game, you're right there. You got that final call. Tough to watch as West Virginia really looking around. I'm shouting there going, you don't need a 3. You don't need a 3. They shoot a 3. They get the rebound. You don't need a 3. You don't need a 3. They shoot a 3. Now you need a 3. Do you get one of those games where you feel like that's where the college games get criticized for the overcoaching sometimes?
Yeah, it frustrates the heck out of me when players don't just drive it to the rim and try to extend the game. I don't know why that doesn't happen. I wish it would, especially because of the overcoaching. You'd think in an overcoaching situation, the coaching would come into play where every single time you hear, get to the rim, get to extend the game, because then you're going to force a team to shoot free throws that isn't a great free throw shooting team. Gonzaga is not a great free throw shooting team. So the odds shift a little bit for you. You've got a chance to get the ball back, maybe only down 2 as opposed to down 3 in those situations if you play that game. And that frustrates the heck out of me as a basketball fan. You see it all the time in college basketball. And I really, really wish that teams would stop relying on this three-point shot in situations where they don't need to shoot a 3. All they needed to do was extend that game. Get to the rim. Gonzaga was likely not going to contest because they didn't want to foul in that situation. So get to the rim, get 2, then foul, and extend the game and see what can happen. But that's not what happened, and so now we see Gonzaga moving on, and they'll take on Xavier.
Yeah, and you know, you look at Bob Huggins is great. I mean, he's I'd love to sit down and just have a conversation with him. You ever get a chance to just kind of, because he seems so grumpy, but is he grumpy? Is he not grumpy? You can't tell half the time.
No, he's not grumpy at all. You know, he's a man's man, is how I would describe him. He's gonna sit down with you. He's gonna talk. He's going to say things that are sometimes colorful. He's going to tell jokes. I mean, there's a gruff exterior to him, obviously. You all see it sitting there on the stool on the sideline. But he is I really enjoyed our time that we spent with him outside of the game on Friday or on Wednesday when we were before that game talking with Bob Huggins. That was really my first opportunity to sit down with him, and I walked away thinking, you're not at all what you look like on TV. So it was kind of nice it's always kind of nice to see those guys away from.
Oh, did we lose Kevin there? He just kind of vanished into the San Jose morning out there. Sports Bash Live. Yeah, and you know, it's funny about Bob Huggins, by the way. When he first got the job there, you know, he went to WVU. When he first got the job there, he lived in like the hotel. You know, he lived there until they were building his house out there.
Oh, okay.
So if you went to the hotel bar,
you would see
Bob Huggins frequently.
And then you could have a Shasta with him and pick his brain a little bit.
Apparently, Bob likes to throw a few back.
He was sitting on a different kind of stool.
I wanted to ask Kevin. That was my follow-up. I wanted to bring it to him before we lost him there is, have you ever seen a coach bring out his own stool?
Right.
You ever see that, where the guy just sits on the stool in the middle of the game?
No, but I do know that he had health issues, too, so maybe the stool, that explains it, too.
Well, yeah, and Kevin, you were kind of talking about Huggins there, and I was going to follow up with you. In all the games you've done, have you ever seen a coach bring out his own stool?
I have a couple of times, but that is usually not the norm, shall we say? But he is a man of habit, and he's going to bring out his own stool. He's going to sit how he wants. He's going to dress how he wants, and you know what? It's worked for him. The man is not in the Hall of Fame, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. He is definitely a Hall of Fame caliber coach.
You mentioned he'll dress how he wants. The story goes he wears that pullover because he was sweating through all of his shirts and ties, and he just said, "The heck with this! He was at halftime and just pulled it off and said, "I'm just gonna put this thing on." And it's there's this habit. He wears that pullover.
Superstition. So Kevin Kugler's with us. We're talking NCAA basketball, and you can hear him on Westwood One right here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, what impresses you the most about the Zags? Because they were the Cinderella team in the past. Now they're the favorite.
Yeah, you can't call this a Cinderella program anymore when you've got the winningest active coach in college basketball at the helm in Mark Few, and you've made 19 straight tournaments. I mean, you can't. Cinderella has long abdicated the throne when it comes to Gonzaga. So you're talking now about a team that I think is one of his most diverse teams, and that's, I think, what gives Gonzaga the chance to go to the Final Four for the first time, because this is a team, and you saw it again last night, they can beat you in a variety of ways. They can beat you by outscoring you. They can beat you with an inside game with Shemek Karnowski, Zach Collins coming off the bench, 2 7-footers who play very different styles, but both are very effective in the styles they play. They can beat you with the outside game, Nigel Williams-Goss, who struggled a little bit with his shot, but Jordan Matthews, Jonathan Williams, all guys who can hurt you. And they can beat you defensively. And this is a very underrated aspect of this Gonzaga game, but they're tops in the country as far as field goal percentage, defense. They're really good defending the three, top 10 in the nation in defending the three-point shot. So this is just a team that does a lot of things well. And when they've been challenged in this tournament, that was one of the questions you always have when the team comes out of the West Coast Conference is, are they going to be challenged? Were they challenged enough? What will their response be in crunch time when the lights are bright in the tournament? Every single time they've been challenged, and they've been challenged in each of their 3 games in this tournament in different ways, they've responded in different ways, whether it be by scoring more points, whether it be last night, like clamping down defensively like they did, and matching West Virginia in an intense defensive game. There's just so many ways they can beat you. I think that's what's going to make Gonzaga a real tough out in this tournament, because you shut down one aspect of their game, they can come at you with something else.
Kevin Kugler with us. You also got to see the Xavier-Arizona game. Were you surprised by Xavier? That seems like a team not a lot of people were necessarily discussing. I know on Selection Sunday, I think I heard somebody say they were the last team to get into the field, and here they are marching right along.
It's pretty impressive considering on January 29th, they lose Edmund Sumner when he tears his knee against St. John's. They win a couple of games after that, but then in February, they just go in the skids. They lose 6 straight. They get crushed in most of those games. I think the average margin of defeat was something like 13 points per game. So they weren't exactly losing on last-second heartbreakers. They were getting pounded by teams over the course of February. And Chris Mack has gotten this team back on the right page. Quentin Gooden's done a nice job in filling in at the point guard spot. They've got a legit star in Trayvon Blewett, who's able to carry a team like he did for a while last night in that first half. And then they have some nice complementary players. Malcolm Bernard's been a nice surprise down the stretch. I think it's now 5 out of his last 9 games he's gotten into double figures. J.P. Makura, one of those guys that when you're done with the game, you really don't like that guy because he's annoyed you for 40 minutes, whether it be offensively or defensively. And then Chris Mack has done a really good job in a couple of areas. One, he switches defenses regularly, which has kept teams off balance. We saw it again last night going back man and zone. And then you look at what he's been able to do on out-of-bounds plays. When there's a timeout, it's rare that they don't score if they have the ball right off that timeout, because he usually draws up a play that gets a great look at the basket. He's a real sharp coach, and he's got Xavier in a real good position. Now, it'll be a real interesting matchup for them against Gonzaga, because the size of Gonzaga inside could cause Xavier some real problems.
Yeah, you're leading right into my next question, Kevin Kugler. I appreciate that. It's almost like you've done this radio stuff before. An overview of the Xavier-Gonzaga game and what you think you'll see.
Well, look, Gonzaga's got size that Xavier does not, and Shemek Karnowski is skilled size in the post. 7'1", 300 pounds. You're not moving this guy. He's got an array of post moves. I don't know what they're going to do right off the bat. They bring Sean O'Mara off the bench. So you're going to have a smaller guy on him. If you can feed the post right away, I don't know if that means Xavier's going to have to go more zone to try to limit that and force Gonzaga to try to hit outside shots to win this game. Zach Collins could play a big role for Gonzaga. He's the more athletic 7-footer that comes off the bench. He didn't have a great game last night because he got into a little foul trouble like half of the team did early in that game against West Virginia. But he's going to be a bounce-back kind of guy. And for Xavier, you got to have a big game from Trayvon Blewett again. That's just that's what's carried them down the stretch, has been the scoring and the sharp shooting of Trayvon Blewett. He's got to perform well, and they've got to be able to defend well enough to stay in this game. Gonzaga's looking at this as their opportunity to validate that number one seed, and they love the matchup, I think, with Xavier. Xavier, though, has got that intangible. They're playing with house money right now. Nobody expected them to be here. They are loose, but they're tough, and that's a really dangerous combination.
Kevin Kugler, Westwood 1, is with us. You'll hear all the games tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday on 97.3 ESPN. There's 4 tonight. A lot of people, though, looking at that matchup between UCLA and Kentucky as kind of the featured bout at 9:39 tonight. What's your take on those two heavyweights going at it?
Yeah, it is. I don't disagree. That is a featured bout indeed. And the question always with UCLA is, how do you slow them down? How do you slow down what they want to do, which is run them down the floor and score a bunch of points? There are a few teams that do it better than UCLA. As far as Kentucky's concerned, they've got to defend, and I've always said John Calipari is an underrated defensive coach. He gets guys to defend in short amounts of time, which is not easy to do when he's continually turning over a roster and bringing in blue chippers who are not always good defenders or even asked to defend for most of the time before they get to Kentucky. But somehow over the course of a year, he gets these kids to buy in enough to defend at a level that they've not defended together as a team. And so if they can continue to use their length and athleticism to deny UCLA opportunities, then they're going to be able to hang around in this game and perhaps steal a win. I just think this UCLA team, extremely potent, very talented, and if they can get running up and down the floor, and if Kentucky is willing to run with them, I don't think that bodes well for Kentucky. If it becomes an up and down the court game, I like UCLA in that matchup.
Should be fun, by the way, and Kevin Kugler will have the call tomorrow night of Xavier Gonzaga. That's your game, right, Kev?
That is my game, yes. They are keeping me in San Jose to call this last one in the West before we go to Phoenix.
That's so you can hang out more with Bill Murray. I would expect you and him to be best friends by now. I know that you're a Cubs fan. I know he's a lifelong Cubs fan, and now you guys are in the same place. You should have his phone number and speed dial, right, Kev?
Yeah, it's funny. He just keeps calling, and I'm just like, look, Bill, I need some time off, man. I mean, I gotta relax. I got games to prepare for. No, I would love to hang out with Bill Murray. That opportunity has never come up. If you know him and you'd like to send him my way, feel free. I'd be happy to entertain the notion.
Kevin Kugler, Jim Jackson, tomorrow in San Jose for the Elite Eight. You can hear them right here from Westwood 1 on 97.3. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, guys.